Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I used to work part-time at a fried chicken place in downtown Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't technically a KFC, but it was close enough. Red and white uniforms, greasy counters, and the faint smell of old oil that never really left your clothes. The sign outside said "Cluckin' Good Chicken," but everyone in town just called it fake KFC. I was a broke college student then, scraping through my last semester with a mountain of student debt and barely enough cash to afford rent. The job didn't pay much, but closing shifts had one perk. Whatever fried chicken didn't sell by the end of the night was ours to take home. Free food is free food, right? The first few weeks were easy. I worked with a few other college kids. Lena, who handled the register, Bryce, our lazy fry cook, and Mr. Owens, the manager. He was an older guy, short-tempered but harmless. The kind who yelled about wasted napkins but let us sneak leftover biscuits into our bags when he wasn't looking. At first, I didn't think much of the food. We prepped it the same way every night. Chicken pieces dipped in a flour mix that came in sealed white bags marked "Proprietary Blend, Confidential." Owens used to joke, "That's the secret recipe, kid. Don't breathe too hard or corporate'll charge you for sniffing it." But one night, something changed. It was a slow Tuesday. Around 10:30 p.m., just before closing, a new shipment came in. Boxes of spice mix that looked different. Instead of the usual logo, these had a plain black label and a faint chemical smell when Bryce tore one open. "Yo," I said, wrinkling my nose. "That smell normal to you?" He shrugged. "Probably just new packaging or something. Corporate's always changing suppliers. Let's get this done so we can bounce." We used the new mix without thinking twice. The chicken came out darker than usual, crispier, almost shiny, like it was sweating grease even after cooling. Owens took one look and smiled like he'd seen gold. "Looks perfect," he said. "Corporate's been trying some new flavor enhancers. If it tastes half as good as it looks, we're gonna sell out tomorrow." He wasn't wrong. The next day, the place was packed from open to close. People were ordering family buckets, double meals, extra-large portions, more than I'd ever seen. Even regulars who usually complained about the food were smiling, licking their fingers and asking for seconds. By closing time, every tray was empty. "Damn," Lena said, locking the doors. "We actually sold out. You ever seen that happen?" "Never," I replied. "Guess that new spice mix works." We laughed. It often clocked out, but as I was leaving, Owens handed me a paper bag. "Here, kid. Took a few pieces from the first batch. Quality control, you know?" I took it home, still warm. But when I bit into one, I froze. It tasted off. Not bad exactly, but different. Sweet at first, almost floral, then bitter, leaving a weird numbness on my tongue. I'd eaten enough of this stuff to know something wasn't right. I tossed the rest into the trash and brushed my teeth twice before bed. The next morning, my tongue still tingled. By the end of the week, people in town were talking about Cluckin' Good Chicken, like it was the best food ever made. College kids were skipping class to grab lunch there. Local news even did a short piece about the revival of the small-town chicken joint. But the customers started looking strange. Some came in every single day, same people, same orders, their faces pale and sweaty like they hadn't slept in days. One woman named Marcy, who used to come in with her kids once a week, showed up alone 3 nights in a row, eyes glassy, hair greasy. "Can I get the big bucket?" she mumbled. "You sure?" "That's 20 pieces," I said, half joking. She smiled, lips cracked. "Yeah, I'll finish it." She did. Every last piece. I saw her outside in the parking lot after closing, scraping the crumbs off the bottom of the bucket with her fingers. A few of us started talking about it during slow shifts. "You think Owens put something in the chicken?" Lena asked one night, frowning. "Like MSG or something addictive?" Bryce laughed. "Addictive chicken? Please, it's grease and salt. People are just fat, that's all." But I couldn't shake the unease, especially after what happened next. About a week later, I came in for my shift and the smell hit me before I even clocked in. It wasn't just fried food anymore. It was heavier, almost sweet, but sickly, like perfume gone rancid. Owens was in the back, staring at a pot of fryer oil, mumbling under his breath. "You good, boss?" I asked. He turned to me with a smile too wide for his face. "Better than good. Sales are up 200%. Head office is gonna love me for this." That night, when I tried to eat some leftover fries, I realized even they tasted off, coated in that same weird spice. It left a film on my tongue that water couldn't wash away. The next few days were chaos. We ran out of chicken by 8 p.m. almost every night. Customers were banging on the windows, yelling to be let in after closing. Some even camped outside before opening hours. One guy named Terry, a local cab driver, had come in every day for a week. The day we ran out, he slammed his fists on the counter. "What do you mean you're out?" he shouted. "I need it. You don't understand. I need it." Owens rushed in and calmed him down, promising free buckets tomorrow. But when I looked at Terry's hands, they were shaking, his fingernails crusted with dried grease. That night, Owens stayed late, mixing something in the back. I peeked through the small window in the office door. He had one of those black spice bags open and was pouring white powder from a smaller container into it. My stomach dropped. The next morning, I told Lena, "He's mixing something into the spice blend." She stared at me. "Like drugs?" "I don't know, but it's not normal." We decided to call the regional office the next day, but we never got the chance. That night was the last time I ever worked there. We were slammed as usual, people screaming for chicken, shoving each other in line. The air inside was so thick, with grease and sweat it felt hard to breathe. Around 9 p.m., Bryce came running from the back, his face white as flour. "Dude," he whispered, "Owens is eating it raw." "What?" "He's in the kitchen grabbing pieces straight from the fryer basket. He's burning his mouth but just keeps chewing." Before I could react, someone screamed from the lobby. Marcy, the woman from before, was on the floor, clawing at another customer's bucket. Her mouth was bleeding, teeth broken, but she didn't stop. Within seconds, chaos erupted. People biting, scratching, fighting over the food like wild animals. Lena and I barricaded ourselves in the supply closet, dialing 911 with trembling hands. The screams outside were guttural, primal. Fryer oil splattered against the door as someone or something slammed into it. When the police finally arrived, the store was a war zone. Broken chairs, blood-smeared counters, and customers still gnawing on cold chicken from the floor. Owens was gone. The cops took us in for questioning. When they tested the chicken and the spice mix, they found traces of a synthetic stimulant, something similar to meth but altered, something not on record. Whatever Owens had mixed in had turned ordinary people into addicts in a matter of days. They never caught him. His apartment was empty, the car missing, his bank account drained. Cluckin' Good Chicken closed permanently after that. They bulldozed the building 6 months later. Sometimes when I drive past the empty lot, I swear I can still smell that faint, sweet bitterness in the air like burnt sugar and oil. I can't eat fried chicken anymore. The smell makes me nauseous. But every once in a while, when I pass by a KFC or Popeyes, I see people sitting inside, eating like they haven't eaten in days, eyes glazed, hands trembling. And I wonder if Owens really disappeared, or if someone else bought his secret recipe. I was 9 years old when my parents started managing the KFC on the corner of Hillcrest Avenue and Maple Drive, right off the highway, in a small Midwestern town called Baxter. It wasn't much, just a squat red and white building with flickering, fluorescent lights, but to us it was home. The owner, Mr. Lang, let us stay in the tiny 2-bedroom apartment upstairs. It smelled like fryer grease, detergent, and the faint sweetness of coleslaw. My parents didn't mind, they said it saved money. Dad ran the kitchen most nights, Mom handled the front counter, and I'd do my homework at the little table by the window while the smell of chicken drifted through the vents. Back then I thought that smell meant stability. It meant my parents were working hard, keeping things together. I used to tell my friends, half proud, that we lived above KFC. They'd laugh, but I didn't care. It was home. Every night, after closing, I'd hear the clanging of metal, pans, and the hiss of oil as Dad cleaned up. Sometimes I'd peek through the stairwell that connected the apartment to the restaurant below. The light from the kitchen would spill up the steps, golden and flickering, and I'd see him moving back and forth, checking fryers, mopping floors, whistling old country songs. I used to beg to help him. "Come on, Dad, I can wipe tables or something." He'd smile, that weary kind of smile adults give when they want to say no without sounding mean. "Not tonight, kiddo. It gets too hot back there. I don't want you anywhere near that fryer." So I'd sulk upstairs and listen to him hum while I tried to fall asleep. It was the middle of summer when the first weird thing happened. Mom shook me awake around 3 a.m. The fire alarm downstairs was blaring, the smoke detector shrieking through the ceiling. Dad wasn't in bed. We ran down the stairs, she in her slippers, me clutching the rail, and found the kitchen hazy with smoke. The fryer oil was bubbling, unattended, popping angrily. Dad stood beside it, frozen, just staring into the fryer like he was watching a movie. "Jack!" Mom yelled, grabbing his shoulder. "What the hell are you doing?" He blinked, like he'd just come out of a trance. I don't know," he mumbled. "I thought I heard someone call my name." Mom turned off the machine, cursing under her breath. "You scared the life out of me. Go upstairs. Now." He obeyed without argument, and we didn't talk about it again. But after that night, Dad started acting different, tired, distracted. He'd go down after closing hours and stay up half the night. Sometimes I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and hear the fryer again, the hum of the oil like a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. About a week later, I was watching TV upstairs when the kitchen lights downstairs flickered. It was close to midnight. I crept halfway down the stairs and peeked through the cracked door. The dining area was dark, but the back kitchen glowed in that dull yellow light. Someone was moving back there. It wasn't Dad. The man I saw was tall and thin, his KFC uniform hanging off him like wet paper. His skin looked almost gray in the fluorescent light, and his hair, stringy white, slicked back like he'd just come out of the fryer himself, clung to his temples. He was humming something low and tuneless, stirring a basket in the fryer, with one long metal tong. "Dad?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The man froze. His humming stopped instantly. He didn't turn. He just tilted his head to the side, slowly, like a doll's head creaking on a hinge. Then, still facing the fryer, he said, "You're not supposed to be here, kid." The voice was soft, but wrong. Too calm, too flat, like someone trying to remember how a human should sound. My knees went weak. "Where's my dad?" I stammered. The man turned then, and I swear to God I'll never forget his face. His smile stretched too far, oily and glistening. His eyes were small, black, and deep, like the bottom of a burned pan. He pointed one finger toward the fryer. "He's right here." The smell hit me. Grease, yes, but underneath it something metallic and foul, like burnt hair. I screamed. I ran upstairs so fast I nearly tripped on the top step. I slammed our apartment door and screamed for Mom. She came out half asleep, grabbed me, and shook my shoulders. "What is it? What's wrong?" I was crying too hard to speak. I just kept saying, "There's someone down there. There's someone down there." She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the baseball bat Dad kept by the bed and ran downstairs. I hid under the blanket, shaking, listening. I heard her shouting his name, then silence. Then the creak of the stairs as she came back up. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight. "There's no one there," she said softly. "Just the fryer on again." The next morning, Dad was gone. His shoes were still by the door. His keys and phone were on the counter. The back door was unlocked. The police came, asked questions, searched the freezer, the alley, the dumpsters. They found nothing. One of the officers said he'd probably walked off, maybe stressed from overwork. Mom didn't believe that. Neither did I. She quit the job that week. Mr. Lang didn't even fight her on it. He just looked uncomfortable and said something about strange accidents in older buildings. We packed our things and moved 2 towns over to stay with my aunt. Mom never mentioned Dad again. Not once. She didn't even let me say his name at dinner. Years passed. I grew up. I convinced myself that I'd been half asleep that night, that maybe it was a dream. My therapist told me I was probably processing the trauma of my father's disappearance. I believed that, until last year. I was driving through Baxter on my way to a work conference. The KFC was still there, newly remodeled, shiny red panels, drive-through signs lit up bright. For a second I thought about pulling over just to see. Something made me do it. I parked, walked in, ordered a sandwich. The kid at the counter couldn't have been older than 18. He smiled and handed me my bag. "You eating in or taking out?" "In," I said, scanning the place. It looked normal. Clean tables, soda fountain humming. But as I sat down, I noticed something. The air smelled familiar, not the usual fried chicken smell. No, it was heavier, burnt like overcooked oil. I forced myself to take a bite. The food tasted fine, but I couldn't shake the nausea crawling up my throat. Then I saw it. Through the small kitchen window where the fryers were, a man was standing. Tall. Thin. Red uniform. White hair slicked back. My breath stopped. He turned, just enough for me to see the side of his face, and that smile. That same stretched, greasy smile. He was looking straight at me. I froze. My tray rattled as I stood. Up, the kid at the counter asked, "Hey sir, you okay?" I looked back at him, then at the window again. The man was gone. I didn't even grab my food, I just left. That night I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed with a local news alert. I clicked it without thinking. Baxter KFC temporarily closed after employee found dead in fryer accident. The article said the worker was cleaning the fryer after closing and somehow fell in. They found him hours later, the store reeking of burnt grease. The name listed, Jacob Lang, Mr. Lang's son. My hands went cold. I remembered the smell, the humming, the man's voice saying, "You're not supposed to be here." I tried to convince myself it was coincidence. Maybe I'd imagined seeing him. Maybe I was projecting old memories, but when I went to bed, the smell came back. The thick, oily heat filling my nostrils. I woke up choking, sure I'd hear that fryer again through the floorboards. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I drove back to Baxter. The KFC was boarded up, a closed for maintenance sign taped crookedly to the glass. But someone had scrawled something across the boards in dark grease stains, words smudged but still legible under the streetlight. "You're not supposed to be here." That was enough for me. I turned and ran to my car. It's been 3 months. I can't eat chicken anymore, not even at home. Every time I smell oil heating up, my stomach twists. I've started hearing things at night, too. Soft humming through the vents like a voice coming up from the floor. Sometimes I wake up certain that someone's standing in my kitchen. I'll go check, and everything looks normal. But the air smells faintly of burnt hair. Mom passed away last winter. Before she died, she said something that keeps echoing in my head. Her voice was weak, but I heard every word. She said, "If you ever go back there, don't look in the fryer." I didn't understand then. I do now. Because every time I close my eyes, I see that kitchen light flickering, the fryer bubbling, and that pale man smiling at me. And when I dream, I hear him again, closer this time, whispering in my ear, "You're not supposed to be here, kid." I used to work part-time at a KFC in a small town just off the interstate. It wasn't exactly the kind of place you'd dream of working at, but I was a broke college student trying to pay rent and keep my car from falling apart. The KFC was a 20-minute drive from my dorm, tucked between a rundown gas station and a used car lot. The neon sign out front buzzed so loud at night that you could hear it even from the parking lot. I worked the closing shift most nights. It was quiet, repetitive, and greasy as hell, but the perk was simple. I got to take home whatever chicken didn't sell before closing. For a guy living off instant ramen, that was as good as gold. "Hey, Nate, you good for the fryer tonight?" My manager, Carl, would yell from across the kitchen. "Yeah, boss," I'd reply, tying my apron. As long as it doesn't explode on me again. Carl laughed. That raspy smoker's laugh that always made him cough afterward. You just gotta show it some love, man. Treat it like a woman. That was Carl for you. Mid-40s, always joking around but never really serious about anything. He'd worked there for almost 15 years, which made him some sort of KFC veteran. I didn't know if that was something to brag about. The first few weeks were easy. You flour the chicken, dunk it in the secret spice mix, fry it till it looks golden and toss it in a bucket. The smell clings to your clothes, your hair, even your skin. After a while, you start to feel like you're made of oil and salt. I didn't mind. Free food and a steady paycheck were good enough for me. That changed one Wednesday night. We'd just gotten a new shipment of spice mix that morning. The boxes were labeled confidential, property of KFC Corp. Nothing unusual about that. But when I opened one of the bags, I noticed the powder looked slightly different. Finer, lighter in color, almost like sand mixed with flour. It smelled faintly sweet, too, not like the usual peppery aroma. Carl, I called. Did they change the recipe or something? He glanced over from where he was stacking trays. Corporate's always changing crap, probably just a new supplier. Use it anyway. So I did. That night's chicken tasted off. It wasn't bad. In fact, it was kind of good, like it melted on your tongue. But it left this strange tingle afterward, almost numbing, like you'd licked a battery. I figured it was just my imagination. After all, I'd been breathing fryer fumes for 6 hours straight. When I got home around midnight, I opened my leftover box to eat a piece before bed. The skin had gone soggy, but the smell was still mouth-watering. I bit into a thigh piece and froze. It tasted weirdly floral, like something between honey and detergent. My tongue went slightly numb again. I spat it out, wiped my mouth, and threw the rest in the trash. Guess I'm done with chicken for the night, I muttered. The next day, one of my co-workers, Jenny, brought it up first. Hey, Nate, she said while refilling the fryer oil. Did last night's batch taste funny to you? Yeah, I said. Thought it was just me. She frowned. Carl said it was a new supplier, but it's got this buzz to it. Like caffeine, but different. I laughed it off, but her words stuck in my head. Within a week, customers started showing up more often. Regulars who'd normally come once or twice a week were now here every day, sometimes twice a day. We even started running out of chicken before closing, something that had never happened before. Looks like business is finally picking up, Carl said, grinning as he counted the cash drawer. Guess people can't get enough, I replied. But there was something wrong with the customers. Their faces looked pale, their eyes sunken like they hadn't slept in days. Some of them had tremors in their hands as they waited for their orders, drumming their fingers against the counter, muttering under their breath. I remember this one, guy, short, balding, always wore a flannel shirt. He came in 5 nights in a row, ordered a family bucket each time, and ate it alone in his car. On the 6th night, when I told him we were out of chicken, he slammed his fist on the counter so hard that grease-splattered trays rattled behind me. You're lying, he shouted. You've got more in the back, I know you do. Sir, we're really out, I stammered. His eyes were bloodshot, wild. You can't do this to me, man, I need it. Carl came out and told him to leave before he called the cops. The guy stormed off, muttering something about how we'd regret this. That same night, Jenny cornered me in the kitchen. Nate, I think something's seriously wrong, she whispered. The spice mix, it's not normal. I looked up the supplier label online and the company doesn't even exist. What? I tried calling corporate too. Their line's been down for days. Before I could respond, Carl walked in. His tone was sharp. What are you two whispering about? Nothing, Jenny said quickly. Carl gave her a look, cold, hard. Good, because I don't pay you to gossip. After he left, Jenny leaned close. Something's up with him too. Have you noticed? He's been eating the chicken nonstop. She wasn't wrong. I'd seen him take pieces straight out of the fryer and eat them without even blowing on them, grease dripping down his chin. By Friday, almost everyone who'd eaten the chicken started coming back like addicts. They didn't just want it, they needed it. People were scratching their arms, pacing, twitching, eyes darting around like cornered rats. Jenny and I agreed to stop taking leftovers home. But that didn't stop Carl. Saturday night was when everything went to hell. The restaurant was packed wall to wall. The air reeked of sweat and fryer oil. People were shouting for their orders, slamming their fists on tables. We'd already run out of chicken twice that night, and Carl was getting desperate. He ran to the back freezer, rummaging around for anything he could fry. "We still got some old stuff in here," he said. "Ain't fresh, but they won't care." Jenny grabbed his arm. "Carl, stop. This is crazy. Look at them out there. They're not even acting human." "Sales are through the roof, Jen. We're making record numbers. Corporate's gonna notice this store." I was by the fryer when I heard the first scream. A man at the counter had jumped over the sneeze guard and was clawing at another customer's bucket, tearing it apart with his hands. Another woman bit into someone's arm just to grab a drumstick that had fallen. People were fighting, shrieking, knocking over tables. Grease splattered, buckets flew. "Call 911, Jenny yelled. I ran to the office phone. Dead. The line had been cut. My hands shook as I pulled out my cell, but before I could dial, Carl snatched it away. "No cops," he hissed. His pupils were dilated, his lips greasy. "They'll shut us down." "What the hell's wrong with you?" I shouted. "They're killing each other out there." He grinned, a slow, oily grin. "They just really love the chicken, Nate." Jenny screamed. Carl lunged at her, grabbing her wrist. She swung a fryer basket at his face, the metal clanging against his jaw. He stumbled back, blood dripping down his chin. "You shouldn't have done that," he rasped. I grabbed Jenny's arm, and we ran through the back exit. Behind us, I heard the kitchen door slam open. The mob was coming through. The sound of metal crashing, people shouting, flesh tearing. It all blended into a nightmare. We hid behind the dumpsters, gasping for air. Sirens wailed in the distance, faint at first, then closer. When the police finally arrived, the windows of the KFC were shattered. The smell of burnt oil and blood hung thick in the night. The officers went in with flashlights and tasers. A few minutes later, they started dragging people out, pale, trembling, some still clutching half-eaten chicken pieces. I didn't see Carl among them. The next morning, the news reported that the KFC had been shut down for investigation. They said the spice mix tested positive for traces of a synthetic stimulant, one that had been banned for years due to its addictive and psychotic side effects. The authorities suspected an employee had tampered with the supply to boost sales. They never found out who. Jenny quit town the week after. I tried reaching her, but her phone was disconnected. As for Carl, he vanished. His apartment was empty. No car, no note, nothing. Sometimes I still dream about that night. The screaming, the smell of burning oil, the look on Carl's face. I can't even stand the sight of fried chicken anymore. Every time I pass a KFC, I feel my stomach twist. Because deep down I still wonder, what if Carl didn't run? What if he's out there, still perfecting the recipe? I remember the smell before I remember the sound. That thick, greasy aroma of fried chicken and oil that seeped into every inch of my clothes. It doesn't matter how much detergent I use. My jacket, my car, even my goddamn pillow smells like KFC. My name's Ryan Keller, and I've been working at the KFC on Route 9 for just under 7 months. I took the job to pay for my community college tuition, but at this point, it feels like this place owns me. I work a lot of night shifts, mostly because no one else wants to. The pay's better after midnight, sure, but that also means being stuck here alone when the world outside goes dead silent. Tonight, though, was supposed to be different. There was a staff party, a big one. Everyone was going. Managers, cashiers, cooks, even the janitor who barely talks. Everyone except me, because someone had to stay back and clean up. And of course, that someone was me. "Come on, man, you'll be fine," my manager Liam had said earlier that evening, half drunk already as he handed me the closing checklist. "It's just a few floors to mop and trash to take out. Lock up when you're done. You're my guy, Ryan." I gave him a look. "Yeah, sure. Your guy who does all the dirty work." He just laughed, slapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're the most reliable one here. You got this, champ." Then like that, he and everyone else were gone. music playing from someone's car speakers, laughter fading as they pulled out of the parking lot. I was left standing behind the counter, staring at the reflection of the fluorescent lights on the freshly cleaned floor tiles. It wasn't the first time I'd closed up alone, but something felt off tonight. Maybe it was how quiet it got so fast. Usually you could hear trucks passing or kids skateboarding behind the gas station next door. But tonight it was still. The kind of stillness that makes you aware of your heartbeat. I shrugged it off and got to work. The fryer baskets were caked in crumbs and the grease traps needed scrubbing. I turned up some music on my phone, humming along to drown out the silence. "All right, let's finish this quick," I muttered. "The faster I'm done, the faster I'm out." By 11:40 p.m., I'd already wiped down the counters and restocked the sauces. I was about to tackle the storeroom when I heard something. A faint clatter. It sounded like a tray falling. I froze. I turned down the music. Nothing. I let out a nervous laugh. Probably just the air vent. But when I went to the back to check, I saw something strange. One of the walk-in freezer doors just slightly open. Not much, just a few inches. I was sure I'd closed it earlier. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing against the cold metal shelves. Silence. I pushed the door open and felt the cold air wrap around me. The freezer lights flickered a little, buzzing faintly. Everything looked normal. Boxes of chicken, bags of fries, tubs of coleslaw stacked up. But then my eyes caught something in the corner. Footprints. Wet ones. Bare feet. They led from the inside of the freezer toward the door. I felt my stomach twist. I turned around and slammed the door shut behind me. Nope. No, not tonight. Back. In the kitchen, I tried to shake it off. Maybe one of the other employees came in before and forgot to close it. But that didn't explain the footprints or how cold the air had felt, as if the door had been open for hours. I tried to focus on cleaning the fryers, but the sound came again. Clang. This time from the front counter. "Who's there?" I called, out, gripping the metal tongs in my hand like a weapon. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerators. I walked slowly to the counter. The cash registers were off. Chairs were stacked. Everything looked fine. Then I noticed the TV monitor above the counter, our security feed. All 4 camera views were showing static, except one, the camera pointing at the freezer hallway. Something was standing there. It was blurry, like the camera couldn't focus right, but it looked like a person, a tall figure, maybe 6 feet, just standing perfectly still. "Okay, this isn't funny," I said, backing away. "If this is one of you idiots from the party, I swear to God." I grabbed my phone, no signal, typical. I looked up again. The figure was gone. I rushed to the back, grabbing the mop handle like a bat. "If you're back there, you better say something." The air was freezing again. When I reached the freezer hallway, the door was wide open. The inside light flickered violently, and something dark dripped from the edge of the frame. It wasn't water. It looked thicker. When I touched it, it smeared red across my finger. "Is that blood?" I whispered. Suddenly, something inside moved, a shadow darting between shelves. I dropped the mop. "Oh, hell no!" I turned to run, but the lights in the hallway shut off. Pitch black. My breath came fast. I fumbled for my phone flashlight and turned it on. The beam shook as I pointed it toward the open door. Nothing. Just shelves. Boxes. And then eyes. 2 pale, glassy eyes staring from behind the stacked chicken boxes. I stumbled back, heart pounding. The thing stepped forward. Slow and deliberate. It wasn't human, at least not anymore. Its skin was frostbitten, lips bluish, and bits of ice clung to its arms. It opened its mouth like it wanted to speak, but all that came out was a gurgling, wet sound. I turned and bolted. My shoes slipped on the greasy floor as I sprinted toward the front door. I slammed the panic bar. Locked. I'd left the keys in the kitchen. Shit. Behind me, I could hear wet footsteps. Not running, just steady, like it knew I had nowhere to go. I darted behind the counter, grabbed the fry basket, and yanked it out of the oil. The hot grease popped and hissed. When the figure rounded the corner, I threw the basket. Scalding oil splattered across its chest. It screamed, but not like a person. It was this horrible, guttural shriek, like steam forcing its way through ice. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I ran straight to the manager's office, slammed the door, and locked it. My hand shook as I grabbed the landline. Dead. Pretty sure. The lights flickered again and then static from the CCTV monitor. It was still in the kitchen, walking slowly past the fryers. Then it stopped, turning its head toward the camera. It smiled. The screen went black. I backed into the corner, breathing hard. My mind was spinning. What the hell was that thing? Was it someone who froze to death, some prank? Then I remembered something. About 2 years ago, one of the old night cleaners disappeared during a snowstorm. His name was Tommy Gray. Everyone said he just quit, but I'd seen his picture once on a missing poster outside the gas station. Tall, brown hair, pale blue eyes. Just like the thing I'd seen. I whispered to myself, "That's not possible." Then I heard a voice from the other side of the door. A whisper. "Ryan." I froze. "Ryan, you left me in there." I felt tears in my eyes. No, you're not real." The doorknob turned. Slowly, I pushed my back against the desk, gripping the metal stapler in my hand. The voice came again, softer this time. "It's cold, Ryan, so cold." The door burst open. I screamed. The light flickered, then went out. When the manager came to open the restaurant the next morning, he found the place spotless. Every fryer scrubbed, every counter gleaming. Ryan's car was still in the parking lot, but Ryan wasn't. The only thing out of place was the walk-in freezer door, wide open, and inside, on the frosted floor, 2 sets of footprints, one leading in, one leading out, and, smeared across the freezer wall, written in grease and blood, were the words, "It's still cold." I've decided against giving my real name. It's safer that way. Let's just say, for now, you can call me Eric. I've carried this secret for years, buried so deep that even the smell of fried chicken makes my stomach twist. Maybe writing this down will finally help me sleep again. I used to work at a KFC in a small Midwestern town called Riverview, about 40 minutes outside Chicago. It wasn't anything special, just another greasy joint with a red and white logo fading from the sun. I started there when I was 19, a broke college dropout looking for steady pay. Over time, it became more than a job. It was home. The I-Nig regulars knew me. Families, high school kids, truckers stopping by on long drives. They'd all wave at me behind the counter. I liked the rhythm of it, the crackle of the fryer, the steady beeps of the timers, the smell of chicken and biscuits. It was simple, predictable. After 12 years of working there, I was finally told I'd be promoted to manager. My current boss, Mr. Harlan, called me into the office one Thursday afternoon. He was an old man with tired eyes and a voice that carried authority even when he whispered. "Eric," he said, folding his hands, "you've been here longer than anyone. You know this place better than I do now. I'm retiring next week, and I want you to take over." I remember smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." He nodded slowly. "Good. Just remember, being a manager comes with responsibilities, things you might not understand yet." I laughed, thinking he was just being dramatic. "I can handle it. I've been here a long time." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and said quietly, "I hope you can." That same week, I was scheduled for the night shift, my last one before officially becoming manager. Most nights were quiet. A few late-night customers, mostly regulars, a few lonely souls. One of them was a kid named Toby. Chubby, maybe 10 years old, always wore this blue hoodie and carried a little backpack covered in cartoon stickers. He'd sit by the window, munching on popcorn chicken and fries, dipping each piece into sauce, like it was the highlight of his day. I started talking to him one night while wiping down tables. "You got school tomorrow, kid?" I asked. He shrugged. "Yeah, But I don't want to go home yet. Why's that? He looked down. Mom and Dad fight a lot. When they yell, I just come here. It's quiet. That hit me harder than I expected. I'd grown up in a loud house myself. So, I let him hang around. He'd stay until closing sometimes, telling me about his favorite video games or how much he loved the smell of chicken. Every time he finished eating, he'd lick his fingers clean and laugh. It's finger-licking good, I used to chuckle, and say, "That's right, kid. That's the spirit." The next night, something changed. It was around 10:45 p.m. when a tall man walked in. Hood pulled up, hands in his pockets. The air felt heavier the second he stepped inside. He didn't say a word at first, just stared at the menu board like he was memorizing it. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, gravelly. "Bucket meal, extra crispy." I nodded and rang it up. "That'll be," he interrupted, leaning in slightly. "Are these the finger-licking good ones?" His tone made my stomach twist. I forced a smile. "Hey, yeah, that's the slogan." He didn't laugh, didn't even blink. He just said, "Good. I don't need any other ones but those." When I brought his order to his table, he stared at me for a few seconds longer than anyone should. Then he began to eat, slow and deliberate, one piece at a time. I swear he didn't chew, just gnawed, like an animal. When he left, I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The next few nights he came back, always around the same time. He always ordered the same thing, each time the same question. "Are these the finger-licking good ones?" And every time that same stare. Even Toby noticed him once. "That guy's weird," he whispered one night. "He looks like one of those bad guys from my games." "Don't worry about him," I said, trying to sound confident. "Some people are just different." But deep down, I was uneasy. Friday night, my last shift before promotion. It was raining hard, thunder shaking the building every few minutes. The restaurant was nearly empty, just Toby and me cleaning up. Around 11 p.m., I went out back to throw away the trash. When I came back, both Toby and the hooded man were gone. At first, I thought Toby had gone home. But then I noticed something. Strange, the back kitchen light was on. I heard whistling away a faint, eerie tune coming from behind the swinging doors. My heart pounded. When I pushed the doors open, I froze. The hooded man was standing at the grill, flipping chicken like he worked there. His sleeves were rolled up, hands covered in grease. "What
The hell are you doing?" I demanded. "You can't be back here."
He didn't turn around. "The cook's shift is over. It's my turn now." I took a step back. "No, it's not your turn. You're a customer, man. You need to leave. Now." He ignored me, reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a small jar. Inside were strips of something pale red soaked in dark liquid. I thought it was fries at first, until I saw the shape. They were fingers, human fingers. He dropped one into the fryer. It hissed, popping oil everywhere. The smell hit me next. A disgusting mix of meat and iron. I wanted to scream, but the sound got stuck in my throat. Then I tripped on something. When I looked down, I saw Toby. He was lying on the floor, eyes open, unmoving. His little hands, both of them, were mutilated. His fingers were gone. I stumbled back, choking on my breath, and shouted for help. Within seconds, Mr. Harlan rushed in. I'd never been so relieved to see anyone in my life. "Thank God," I gasped. "Call the cops, please. He killed the kid." But Harlan didn't move. He raised a finger to his lips. "Shh," he whispered. "You don't want to alert anyone." What the hell are you talking about?" I shouted. He walked calmly toward the hooded man who now removed his hood. His face was covered in scars, burns, and cuts, like he'd been in 100 fights and lost everyone. "Eric," Harlan said softly. "Meet Mr. Corbin. He's been with us for years. He handles the night show." I stared, horrified. "The night show? Are you kidding me? That man killed a kid." Corbin smirked. "Killed? No, I just made the meal finger-licking good." I turned to Harlan, my voice trembling. "You're feeding people human fingers?" He chuckled almost kindly. "Oh God, no, you make it sound so crude. Think of it this way, Eric. Fine wine enhances flavor, doesn't it? Well, a little human seasoning adds something divine. People can taste the difference, even if they don't know what it is. That's why our chicken is special. That's why customers always come back." I was shaking, my legs barely holding me up. "You're insane," he sighed. "You said you were ready for the manager position, didn't you? This is part of it. Responsibility, tradition." He gestured toward the fryer. Corbin reached in with tongs, lifted out a golden brown piece of chicken, steam rising off it. He placed it on a paper tray, slid it toward me. "Try it," Harlan said. "You'll understand." I couldn't move, couldn't think. My brain screamed no, but my hands, they moved on their own. I picked up the piece. The smell was intoxicating. Sweet, savory, impossible to describe. My conscience was screaming, but the voice in my head whispered, "Just one bite." So I bit, and for a second I understood it was delicious. The best thing I'd ever tasted. Harlan smiled. "See? Now you know the secret." That night changed everything. I never called the cops. I didn't tell anyone about Toby. And the next day, I was officially promoted to manager. For the next 5 years, I ran that store. People loved our chicken. The franchise got awards for best regional flavor. But every time I saw a new missing person poster around town, I felt sick. I knew where they were going, what they were becoming. And yet, I stayed, quiet, because I wanted my promotion, my raise, my little piece of power. I told myself I had no choice, that it was too late to back out. But I knew that was a lie. Now, years later, I can't sleep. Every night I see Toby's face in the fryer's reflection. I hear that damned whistling tune. I smell burnt oil and flesh. I'm not telling this story for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not telling it for sympathy either. I'm telling it because I want peace, even if it's just for one night. Maybe if someone else hears this, they'll understand why I never eat chicken anymore. And if you ever visit Riverview and find a KFC that tastes too good, just remember, some recipes shouldn't be passed down. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to lose sleep over fried chicken, but here I am, 5 years later, staring at my ceiling every night, replaying that week in my head like a movie that won't stop. My name doesn't matter anymore. You can call me Logan. I used to work at a KFC in a quiet town off I-85 in Georgia. Back then, I was proud of my job. I started when I was 20, broke, trying to pay off community college loans, living in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaky ceiling. The store wasn't fancy, just your regular KFC with red booths, the Colonel's smiling face on every wall, and that familiar smell, fried oil and seasoning that stuck to your clothes for days. I worked my way up from cleaning tables to running night shifts. I knew every fryer, every freezer, every order code by heart. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I had coworkers who became family. We'd joke around, share leftover wings after closing, complain about customers who asked for extra crispy when we'd already dumped the last batch. Then one Thursday night, my manager, Mr. Rourke, called me into his office. "Logan," he said, lighting his cheap cigar. "You've been here, what, 7 years now?" "8, sir," I said, half smiling. "Right, 8. You ever think about running this place?" I laughed. "Running KFC? Sure, I think about it every time you make me clean the grease trap." He didn't laugh back. He leaned forward, his eyes sharper than usual. "I'm serious. I'm retiring next month. Corporate's gonna need someone who knows the ropes. I'm recommending you." I blinked. "Me? For manager?" He nodded. "You earned it. But understand, being manager here ain't like flipping buckets. You'll see things you don't see from behind the counter." I thought he was just being dramatic, so I said, "I can handle whatever comes with it." He smiled. That kind of smile you don't trust but don't question either. "I sure hope so," he said. That was the start. During my last week as shift lead, I noticed a kid who hung around the dining area almost every night. Maybe 11, maybe 12. Skinny, wearing the same gray hoodie every day, always ordering the $5 fill-up with mashed potatoes. I'd seen him enough times to start talking to him. "Hey, bud," I said one night, mopping near his booth. "Don't. You ever get tired of chicken?" He grinned, a bit shy. "No, sir. I like it here. It's warm." "What's your name?" "Eli." I nodded. "You come here alone, Eli?" He shrugged. "My mom works nights at the gas station down the road. My stepdad's, well, he's usually drunk, so I stay out of the house," he said, it so casually, like he was describing the weather. It hit me harder than I expected. "Hey," I said, "you ever need to stay till we close, that's fine. Just don't go wandering in the kitchen, all right?" He smiled and went back to his meal. Every night after that, I made sure to give him a little extra piece or a warm biscuit. Kid reminded me of myself, just trying to find comfort somewhere. Then came Friday night. It started normal, slow, a few drive-through orders, and Eli sitting in his usual booth. Around 10:30, a man walked in. Tall, wearing a faded denim jacket and a black cap pulled low. He didn't look drunk, but something about him felt off. He stood at the counter without saying a word, just staring at the menu. "Evening, sir," I said, trying to sound friendly. "What can I get for you tonight?" After a long pause, he said quietly, "I'll take a 12-piece, extra crispy." "Sure thing," I said. "Any sides?" He looked up at me then. His eyes were pale, almost gray, and his voice dropped lower. "I just want the fingers." I blinked. Sorry, you mean chicken tenders?" He tilted his head, smiling just enough to make my stomach twist. "Yeah, the finger-licking ones," I forced a laugh. "Right, tenders it is." When I brought the food out, he was still staring straight ahead, not touching the tray. Then he said, "You know what makes them taste that good?" I shrugged. "Secret. Recipe, I guess." He chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "Secret's always in the flesh." I wanted to joke it off, but something in his tone stopped me cold. Eli was watching from his booth, wide-eyed. The man noticed him too, grinning slightly before turning back to his food. He ate slow, methodical. When he left, the chair creaked against the tile like a scream. Next night, same time, same man. He ordered the same thing, sat in the same booth, stared at the same spot on the wall. Eli whispered to me, "That guy's creepy." "Yeah," I said under my breath, "but as long as he pays, we can't kick him out." The man came for 3 nights straight, always alone, always ordering the tenders. But on the 4th night, everything changed. It was my last shift before officially taking over as manager. I remember because Rourke had given me his office keys earlier that evening. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, "After tonight, the store's yours." We were supposed to close at 11. It was almost 10:45 when I noticed Eli was gone from his booth. His meal sat half-eaten. I checked the bathrooms. Empty. I asked my coworker, Tina, if she'd seen him. She said no. Then I noticed the back door to the kitchen slightly open. The wind from outside made the employees-only sign tap softly against the frame. I called out, "Eli, you back there?" No answer. I stepped into the kitchen. The hum of the fryers was the only sound. Oil popped lazily, golden chicken floating under the fluorescent lights. And then I saw him. The man in the denim jacket. He was standing over the fryer, humming something. Low, tuneless, chilling. "Hey!" I shouted. "You can't be back. Here, where's my cook?" He didn't turn around, just said, "His shift's over, I'm finishing up." "What the hell are you talking about?" He finally turned his head. That same pale gaze locking onto me. "You said you wanted to know the secret recipe, didn't you?" I froze. He pulled a small glass jar from his pocket. It was filled with something dark red and small. For a second, my brain refused to process it, but then he opened the jar and began dropping the contents into the fryer one by one. The oil hissed. The smell changed, not chicken, not spice, something sweet and rotten. "Jesus Christ," I yelled, "what are you doing?" He looked me dead in the eye and said calmly, "It's the fingers. They make it finger-licking good." That's when I saw it, under the prep table, a small sneaker, Eli's sneaker. I dropped to my knees, pulled up the cloth, and there he was, Eli's body, motionless. His hands were gone. My stomach turned inside out. I screamed for help, but before I could move, someone grabbed me from behind. "Calm down, Logan," a voice said. It was Mr. Rourke. He stepped between me and the man, waving his hand, like I was overreacting. "What the hell is going on, Rourke?" I shouted, my throat shaking. Rourke sighed. "You weren't supposed to see this yet." "What?" He nodded toward the man. "That's Mr. Kane. He handles quality assurance." I stared, not believing what I was hearing. Rourke continued. "You ever wonder why our chicken tastes better than Popeye's? Why corporate never lets us change the recipe? This," he gestured to the fryer, "is why." "You're insane," I screamed. Kane smiled again. "You tasted it before, didn't you? You loved it." Rourke stepped closer, voice soft but sharp as a knife. "You want to be manager, Logan? Then you need to understand what makes us special. I'm not part of this." He cut me off. "You already are. You've been eating it for years." The room felt like it was spinning. The smell of burning oil and flesh filled my lungs. Kane pulled a piece of fried meat from the basket, steam rising. From it, he handed it to Rourke, who tore off a bite and nodded in satisfaction. Then Rourke turned to me. "Your turn," he said. "I'm not doing this." He sighed, set the piece down and whispered, "Then you're not going to be manager. You'll just be another ingredient." Kane took a step toward me, his eyes dead and flat. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed the hot oil scoop and flung it straight at his face. He screamed, stumbling back, grabbing his melting skin. Rourke lunged for me, but I shoved him hard and bolted out the back door into the alley. I ran. I don't even remember where. I didn't stop until my lungs gave out. When the cops came the next morning, after I called from a payphone, there was nothing. No Rourke, no Kane, no Eli, not even blood. The cameras were wiped, and corporate denied knowing anyone by those names. They shut the store down for remodeling 2 weeks later. A new one opened a few miles away. I tried to move on, but it's impossible. Every time I walk past a KFC, that smell hits me, and I remember the sound of those fingers sizzling in oil. Sometimes late at night, I swear I can hear Eli's voice. "Hey, Mr. Logan, it's so good you'll lick your fingers." And, God help me, sometimes I catch myself licking mine after eating just out of habit, every time I feel sick, because now I know what made it taste that good. I used to work at a KFC about 5 years ago in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't a glamorous job or anything, just one of those late-teen gigs to pay rent and scrape by. I was 20 then, living in a shared apartment with a friend from high school, barely keeping up with bills. That job was supposed to be temporary, but I ended up staying for almost 2 years. Not because I loved it, but because it was steady, predictable, until that night. That night changed how I looked at people forever. I was the closing cashier most nights. The place shut down at 11 p.m. and we usually started cleaning around 10:30 once the dinner rush was over. On that particular Friday night, the summer heat outside was brutal, the kind that sticks to your skin and makes you pray for the air conditioner to keep working. I remember the smell of grease clinging to my uniform, the low hum of the fryers, and the faint buzz of that flickering neon open sign near the window. My shift partner that night was Ryan, our new night cook, a quiet guy, mid-30s with a thick beard and tired eyes. He had only been there for a few weeks, but we got along fine. He'd hum old rock songs while cleaning the fryers, and I'd joke that he should start a band called Fried and Dead Inside. We both laughed. If only I knew how dark that joke would become. It was around 10:45 when the bell above the entrance door rang. I looked up, expecting maybe a last-minute drive-through straggler who wandered in by mistake. Instead, 2 teenage boys walked in. One had messy red hair and pale skin, wearing a faded denim jacket that looked like it hadn't seen a washer in months. The other kid, taller with a grimy man bun and an oversized hoodie, had this strange, twitchy energy. They couldn't have been older than 16, but something about them made me uneasy right away. Maybe it was the smell, a mix of dirt, sweat, and cigarette smoke. Maybe it was the way they walked, slow but deliberate, eyes scanning every inch of the room. "Yo," the red-haired one said, his voice flat and cold. "Bucket of fried chicken, large one." He slapped a crumpled 20 on the counter. "Sure thing," I replied, forcing a smile. "You can take a seat, we'll bring it out." Ryan peeked out from the kitchen window. "Last order?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. 2 kids, bucket of fried. Easy. But I couldn't shake that feeling. The redhead, especially. There was something behind those eyes. Not drunk, not high, just hollow. As they sat down, the taller one kept glancing at me, licking his lips in this slow, unsettling way. Every time I looked up from the register, I caught him staring. I told myself it was just nerves. I'd handled weird customers before. But this felt different. Ryan came out a few minutes later, wiping his hands. "You good?" he asked, noticing my expression. "They're just off," I whispered. "Watch them." He chuckled. "Relax, Jess. They're kids. Probably high or hungry, or both." I wanted to believe that. But when I looked up again, the redhead was standing near the counter, his gaze fixed not on me, but on the security camera above my head. He tilted his neck, studying it, like he was planning something. The taller one got up and walked outside. "Bathroom?" I asked, hoping for an answer. "Taking a leak," the redhead said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. A few minutes passed. No sign of Ryan, no sign of the other boy. Just the redhead sitting there, tapping his fingers against the table, in this rhythmic, almost impatient way. I started to feel that crawling sense of dread, the one that tells you something's about to go wrong, even before you can explain why. "Hey, Ryan?" I called toward the kitchen. No answer. I waited another minute, then grabbed the order slip and walked toward the back. That's when the lights went out. Total darkness. The only light came from the glow of my phone screen. At first, I thought it was a power cut, but the streetlights outside were still on. The electricity inside had been cut manually. My heart started racing. I turned on my phone's flashlight, taking slow steps into the kitchen. "Ryan?" I called again. "You good back there?" My foot slipped on something wet. When I pointed the flashlight down, I saw it. Thick, dark red liquid spreading across the white tile floor. Blood. Ryan's body was lying just a few feet away, eyes wide open, his throat slashed so deep it looked unreal. The pool of blood was still fresh. The knife, one of ours, lay next to him. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. And then behind me a voice spoke softly. "Looking for someone?" I turned around and there he was, the red-haired kid, standing just inches away, holding another knife, this one still dripping. Before I could scream, he smiled. "You shouldn't have left the counter, sweetheart." I backed away, my mind spinning. "What do you want?" I stammered. He tilted his head. "Money. Maybe a little fun. We'll see how it goes." That's when the back door creaked open, and the taller one stepped inside. Hoodie soaked in rain, eyes wide and wild. He had blood on his hands. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "You killed him." The redhead, Jake, I heard the other one call him, was shrugged casually. "He was in the way. You don't want to be, do you?" They cornered me fast. My back hit the metal counter, the smell of fried oil mixing with blood and sweat. My phone was still in my hand. I could call 911 if I got 1 second free. But Jake noticed it. He snatched it from me and shoved it into his pocket. "You'll get it back," he said, smirking. "If you behave." I was shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "You don't have to do this. Take the money. I'll open the register." The taller one, Kyle, that's what Jake called him, shifted nervously. Let's just grab the cash, man, we should go. Jake glared at him. Shut up, you always freak out too soon. It was clear who the leader was. Jake enjoyed it. The control, the fear, the game. I led them toward the counter, my mind racing. The lights were still out, the room flickering dimly from the glow of my phone in Jake's pocket. I tripped slightly, hitting my head against the marble counter, and felt warm blood trickle down my forehead. Move faster, Jake barked, kicking the back of my leg. Please, I whispered. You don't have to hurt me. Not yet, he replied coldly. When we reached the register, I told them, it's automated. I need the computer to unlock it. Do it then, Jake said, pointing the knife at my throat. I pretended to type on the keyboard. My plan was forming slowly. Risky, but all I had. Turn the cameras off, Jake ordered. I can't, I lied. They're automatic too. He leaned closer, blade grazing my neck. Try harder. I nodded quickly and pressed a few keys, just enough to look like I was disabling them. In reality, I turned them on, rerouting power from the backup battery, system Ryan had installed the week before. Every second was now being recorded. When I opened the register, Jake moved in close to grab the money bag. That's when I slammed the drawer shut, right on his hand. He screamed, dropping the knife. I swung the cash drawer open again and smashed it against his face. His nose exploded in blood. Kyle froze. What the hell, Jake? I didn't waste a second. I grabbed the can of chili flakes from under the counter, like we used them for sandwiches, and hurled it straight into Kyle's eyes. He howled in pain, falling backward. I lunged for Jake's dropped knife, my body running purely on adrenaline. Jake came at me again, screaming, "You stupid!" I drove the knife straight into his chest. Once, twice. He staggered, gasping, his eyes going wide before collapsing. Kyle was still on the floor, writhing, trying to rub the flakes out of his eyes. I didn't think. I just acted. I stabbed him, too. Again and again until he stopped moving. The sound of the rain outside was the only thing left in the silence. I stood there shaking, covered in blood. Their blood. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, just silence. When I finally caught my breath, I dragged their bodies into the back. There was an old industrial incinerator we used for trash in the basement storage area. Nobody but Ryan and I had the key. Wrapped the boys in garbage bags, each movement mechanical, detached, like I wasn't even human anymore. I burned everything. The uniforms, their wallets, the knives. The fire hissed and roared as the smell of burning flesh filled the air. I stood there until it was done. Then I called 911. I told the dispatcher that 2 teenage boys had attacked me and killed Ryan before fleeing with the cash. I cried, genuinely cried. And by the time the police arrived, I was shaking hard, enough that they didn't question a word I said. The next morning, the story hit every local news channel. 2 juvenile suspects wanted for murder and armed robbery at local KFC. The security cameras showed exactly what I wanted them to. The boys entering, harassing me, and walking toward the back. There was no footage of me after that. The lights going out had seen to that. Ryan was gone. But in the eyes of the world, I was the survivor. The poor girl who barely made it out alive. I kept working there for another month, pretending to heal, to move on. Then one morning, I quit. Told my manager I needed a fresh start back home. I packed up and left town the next day. Sometimes, when I pass by another KFC now, the smell of fried oil makes me nauseous. People always talk about trauma as something that fades, but for me, it's still there. Not as fear, but as a strange, quiet satisfaction. Because every time I see a wanted post for those 2 boys, still unsolved, still open after all these years, I smile. No one ever found out the truth. They never will.